Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. We are still here. We are still, of course, practicing safe social distancing in our homes, and we hope that you are listening in your home as well. Unless you're a healthcare or grocery store worker or someone who needs to be working and you can safely listen to podcasts at work. In that case, go for it. Anyways, great to be here. Great to be back again. I am, of course, Illeagle 86, and I am here with my good friend, Techtic.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. And when you ask that question, are you asking me or everyone, like the audience?
I am asking you.
Okay. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking, by the way. I never ask you how you're doing. How are you?
Good.
And Nerdbomber's also here.
Hello.
Before I just start having an individual conversation with Techtic, Nerdbomber's here, and we're here again to regale you with a few news topics that are presumably nerd-related. Starting, of course, with the big PS5 kind of reveal. I can't remember, what was it called, this big video? It was like a TED Talk last week. It wasn't called State of Play, but it had some kind of name that was similar to that, where they just kind of went through all the PS5 details. We're going to be going through that a little bit, especially in comparison with the Xbox Series X. We're going to be talking about this big Star Wars news about the casting of a very beloved character in the Star Wars universe in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about these Netflix reality phenomena that we've actually talked about in the past couple episodes in passing. Love is Blind, of course, and The Circle. They've both been renewed for, I think, 2 seasons each. So a lot on the docket today, but we should start with kind of this big tech news about the PlayStation 5. So it was actually just called Road to PS5. It wasn't anything particularly interesting name-wise, but it was essentially a live stream that I think was around an hour long, where we got a better sense from the system's lead architect, whose name I don't know how to pronounce, Mark Cerny or Mark Kearney, I don't remember which it is, basically telling us about all the specs on the PS5. Now, let's get down to brass tacks right away, and what I think a lot of people are concerned with as far as the specs themselves go. The GPU has peak of 10.28 teraflops. Now, we already know a lot about the Xbox Series X because they've been putting out their specs as well, and they're at 12.5. I do not... No, they're up to 12. I don't want to get that wrong. They're up to 12. Now, as a gamer who I would say... I'm a fairly casual gamer, especially relative to the two of you. I don't know to what extent the difference in those numbers affects me. Can either of you eliminate me on that, or do you also not know? That number might as well... I'm in computers, and that number might as well be Egyptian to me.
As far as relative, people are going to see it and go, oh man, well, Xbox is higher. But as far as what we can probably pick up as humans, I don't think anyone's really going to be able to say, yep, there's a discernible difference. But hey, so is technology, right? Keep pushing the envelope until we're basically immersed in it.
No, sure. And like, I'm all for it. But yeah, I mean, people like look at it and see that it's a higher number, and maybe certain folks will freak out, but it's 10% higher. It's not like way higher. And at the point we're at with console gaming, I just don't know how much I'm going to see that difference. Now, the solid state drives, which granted both of them have this, but what they're promising here, and we've talked about the solid state drive stuff before on this show, but it's hard to fathom. That, to me, that's the single biggest thing to write home about here, is we're talking about load times being literally 100 times faster. And as someone who, I did say I'm a casual gamer, but you also mentioned immersion just now, Techtic, and like that's going to heighten immersion so much, and not just in the way that you're not going to be staring at a simple loading screen for a minute. You're going to be staring at it for 2 seconds or 1 second. That's big right there. But there are also a lot of things that are done in video games in terms of, if you need levels to load as a game designer, you need to do certain things to temporarily limit the scope of what the player sees so that the environment can load. And to eliminate that, I mean, that introduces a lot of freedom for the game designers themselves, but it also makes our experience better as the players. So to me, that's the thing that has me the most excited and probably the most willing to buy a console that is going to be, what, $500? Do we know what the price of this is?
I think right now it's still under speculation. They haven't really confirmed. I think a lot of people are thinking it'll probably be around like the $399, $499. I mean, the components that they're putting in the PlayStation 5 are pretty
ridiculous,
expensive components. And I mean, I know when the Xbox originally had their spec reveal, I mean, if you just price out those components, it'll probably be around $500. Unless they shock us. Because, I mean, we do know, and I think we've talked about it before on the podcast, that they really don't make their money on the console. They make their money on the live services and the software and the accessories that they sell you. So I wonder if they might undercut the consoles.
Sure. I mean, And we should talk about the games too, because one other thing that was announced is, well, I should start with what wasn't announced. So what very specifically was not talked about is what the release games would be, what PS5 games were even upcoming. He talked about betas, but he didn't talk about full games. So I guess my question would be, the Xbox Series X already has announced that Halo Infinite will be a release game, which is great. Obviously, I mean, if you're a Microsoft fan, that's what you buy the new Xbox for. Usually, is the new Halo. Is there a PS5 title like that? Is there a PS5 exclusive that, I guess, what would you want to see if you could pick one exclusive for them to roll out? I don't have anything that comes to mind. As far as PS5 exclusives for me go, we have Naughty Dog, and Last of Us 2 is coming out in May. So past that, I'm not going to care too much. I don't know if you guys have any strong opinions on that, though.
Gearbox already showed off Godfall, because I think that's an exclusive game for the PlayStation 5. So we know that's going to be coming out. And then they did say that Blue Point Games, and I believe they were behind Uncharted and Shadow of the Colossus, they are supposedly working on a quote-unquote big one to be a launch exclusive with the PlayStation 5. But I mean,
Uncharted is also Naughty Dog. I think you're right about Shadow of the Colossus, but Uncharted is also...
Oh, I'm sorry. They did the remaster from Uncharted. I didn't read the full sentence of the article I've pulled up.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay. I did not know that. I mean, I've heard a lot of great things about Shadow of the Colossus. I've never played it myself. I've seen footage of it. It looks beautiful.
I mean, if you have PlayStation Plus, I'm pretty sure, isn't it one of the free games this month? You can probably pick it up for free if you have the live service.
So I got rid of my PlayStation Plus, and that's probably a conversation that will be longer as in terms of why I did it. But the short answer is I just don't play online games anymore. I had a really strong surge with Destiny where I played online a lot, and briefly with Star Wars Battlefront, but overall, I don't play online that much. I'm mostly a story-driven guy, so I decided to not re-up it for a year. And yeah, I am missing out, of course, on a lot of PlayStation Plus monthly games. I think The Last of Us was recently one of the free games.
I think it was, yeah.
Is that how you're playing it, Techtic? I don't want to spoil your...
We have the disc.
Yeah.
You have the disc, okay. But yeah, so I did not get the live. But as far as the PS4 games goes, too, I should mention this. They're promising almost 100 of the most... They took the 100 most played PS4 games, which I don't really know how they gather that data. I guess they're just probably watching all PlayStation 4s. And they said, quote unquote, almost all of them will be playable, backwards compatible on the PS5 at launch.
See,
which is super cool.
I feel like that's kind of a miss, though, because you do have Xbox coming out and saying that they'll have backwards compatibility for, I think, thousands, they said, maybe 1,000 Xbox One games, in addition to the 360 library and the games that they made for the original Xbox that they made backwards compatible for the One. And I feel like only having 100 of the top games from the PlayStation 4 is kind of a miss, simply because, you look at the PlayStation 4 and a lot of what won this generation for the PlayStation was their amazing games. And I know, obviously you can have the top tier ones, but I feel like there's got to be more than 100 out there that people have played and would like to see playable on the PlayStation 5.
Well, so is Xbox, and I don't know the answer to this question, is Xbox promising thousands at launch? Because that's a lot at launch. I would imagine the backwards compatible catalog will expand as the console, as the console ages, but at launch, I can't imagine Xbox will have 1,000.
See, for me, independent of the number, both the fact that they put a number on there kind of bothers me because, so let's say that they just make it so that you can run them on the Xbox, the latest console. Why not just do an emulator app for the rest of them so you can actually say all games will be backwards compatible for the Xbone in the new console, period, or the new PlayStation?
That's a fantastic question that I do not... I'm sure there's a reason, is my answer. I don't know the answer, but I have a feeling based on the way an emulator would use the hardware or not be able to use the hardware. It's a great idea that I'm sure someone has already thought of. Not that you're not a smart cookie who's out thinking the major gaming companies constantly, but that's
what they basically did with the Xbox One. So just do it again.
Well, I just fact checked, and they did confirm that at launch, thousands of games will be playable for the Xbox Series X for backwards compatibility.
Thousands of games. Did Xbox One even have 1,000 games? That's a lot of games.
I feel like there have to be. If you look at all of the indie games that came out, I mean, you look at the giant online library of games that didn't even get physical launches, the small games that are maybe like $5 and under that weren't top tier games, but there are a ton of indie studios that have released games on both PlayStation and Xbox.
And I get, and again, I think this is in terms of the way that I game and the way that you guys game. Like, this isn't like, I call myself a casual gamer, and like if I named all the games that I've played on PS4 ever, I sincerely doubt there would be more than one or two that were not in the top 100. So when Sony says this about what their backwards compatibility for the PS5, I'm perfectly happy because I know it's going to check pretty much every box for me. But I mean, that's a good point that, if you're going to be doing direct apples to apples comparisons between the two, Xbox wins there. And we already said it wins in terms of the GPU. Both have solid state drives. I don't know. Another thing that was apparently touted during Road to PS5 was that you can play backwards compatible games from an external solid state drive, and also I think from an external hard drive. So I don't know where Xbox sits on that at all. I mean, I'm looking at a list of things that were touted in this PlayStation 5 event, and frankly, the audio I don't care about, but they really were into that, I guess, about in terms of like 3D audio capabilities. I don't know how much of a difference that would make for me.
I think that becomes very important when you look at their VR endeavors.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you have better 3D audio and you're improving the graphics in a VR game, I mean, overall, you're going to have a much better virtual reality experience. As it is, I think the headsets for the PSVR, considering their price point, I mean, the audio is pretty impressive. They do a really good job of making it seem like you're fully surrounded. But if you improve that even further, man, I can only imagine what kind of immersive games they'll be able to come out with.
Yeah, I mean, my PSVR experience. So do you just use the earbuds that are built into the headset? Because that's what I do.
Yeah, I do.
And like, I've never had a particular issue with it, but I also haven't been like sitting down and critically listening to like little sound. You don't like have a hearing test, right? So like, I feel like I'm in the game and I hear something and I turn around, but like, I'm not like focused on, okay, exactly where was that? And maybe it depends on the game you're playing too. Like maybe if you play a survival horror game, then you're a lot more focused on things like that.
Well, I think Half-Life Alyx just came out to glowing reviews, and I think it was getting like hundreds across the board this week. And I think that might pivot VR. I mean, I guess we'll really see the adoption rate if this really causes people to run out and buy more VR headsets. But if it does cause a like renewed interest in virtual reality, I feel like PlayStation will keep throwing money into that. And so like right now, if you look at the games that we're playing on PSVR, they're not something that you're expecting to be this super immersive experience. Like they're fun. It's a really like kitschy fun time, but you're not expecting to like lose yourself and really think you're in a different planet or on a different world or something. Whereas I feel like watching some of the streams and videos from Half-Life Alyx, I feel like they've really stepped up the game. It's the next level.
It's next level.
I mean, I think that to get to that next level with the PlayStation VR, they'll probably have to step it up.
And you're right that, I've always thought of it this way, even owning a PlayStation VR, which is super, I want to be clear, super great. I'm super happy with it. It's a step down from PC-based VR. It has to be from a hardware standpoint.
Well, I mean, you look at the price point.
From a price point standpoint.
Like, it is the perfect entry-level VR headset. When you think about the fact that most people already have PlayStation 4s, because it's the largest selling console of the last generation, and for $200, I mean, you don't have to do anything. You literally just plug it in and play. It's pretty impressive.
For what it is, it is near perfect for what it's trying to be and what it accomplishes. Now, I know this is not, I don't want to digress too far on a tangent, but have seen this Half-Life Alyx? It's unbelievable. I mean, the main thing is the interactivity of the environments. You can touch anything, and you can go up to a radio and twiddle the knobs on it, and it'll work. Like, it's just, like we said, next level stuff. But
like, I know people were upset that Half-Life 3 never came out, but if it never came out because they spent the last 10 years perfecting this VR experience, I may never get a chance to play it because I don't think our computer could handle it. But it would be worth not having Half-Life 3 at the moment, I think, to have this game, because it is so, from everything that I've seen, so impressive. And I think it's just like breaking the barrier for VR games and what they can be.
So to bring it back to the PS5 and specifically in comparison to Xbox, and I know I've asked this question to you guys before, I don't know in how much depth. Let's say they're the same exact price. Let's say they're both $500, because I feel like that's probably the most likely scenario. Which one are you buying? Are you buying PlayStation, or are you buying the Xbox, or are you buying neither one? or both, I guess, is another option if you're, flush with cash.
So,
for me, I'm buying none for now, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's not because I'm not liking what I'm seeing. It's just because that's a lot of money. Techtic, you were going to say something.
All right, I'm going to go with the if I absolutely have to buy one category, I would do the Xbox. Simply because I am and always will be a Xbox fanboy. It was my go-to console, and I will continue to be a slave to them.
Yeah, and I harbor no ill will towards either company. Like I had a 360, I loved the crap out of that. I had both the PS4 and the Xbox One. I eventually sold the Xbox One, but it was just because I didn't really have the time to support both consoles, and at the time, I was more into the PS4 because of the exclusives that I've already talked about. But I mean, Xbox. I mean, Microsoft, Sony. Like, I'm available. Come and get me. Either one of you. I'm a free agent here. Nerdbomber, what about you?
I think I'll probably start with the Xbox, but then eventually get the PlayStation, which is what I did this past generation. So like I grew up with the PlayStation because I had the PlayStation 2 and then got the 360 and I loved it. And then it's weird. I love the gamer score aspect. And also like Game Pass has super sold me in at this point. Like I love both consoles, but Game Pass, I now have a membership until 2021. And the value that you get in Game Pass, like I still buy games because I like having physical games, which makes me, I feel like, kind of old school. But Game Pass is an incredible value, and I feel like I've played a lot of games through Game Pass, and basically it was free. And so it's such a great service, and I will probably buy it simply for that.
I've already said, I think in multiple episodes, that before I buy either of these, I would probably buy a Switch, just because it's so different and because it's $200. It's probably going to be $200 less than this. And even hearing all this great stuff about the new consoles, the fast load times and the 3D audio and all that, I stand by that opinion. I think it's more likely that I buy a Switch first. I don't know when that'll be, but as far as when these consoles are coming out, all we know about them, I think Xbox actually has a release date now, which I believe is November 26, 2020. Which is probably like, I don't know, the Friday after. It might be Black Friday. I have no idea. But I guess, the critical thing here, and one of the most important steps for Microsoft, they really bungled their release of the Xbox One. If you remember that, they had that thing where the Kinect was always watching you and you're always online, and then they messed up. The price point came out and it was way higher than PlayStation's, so I think right now, if you're Microsoft, you're probably waiting very cautiously to see what Sony does. And I think that will continue, but eventually one of them is going to have to say something.
I honestly,
how much it's going to cost.
I'm kind of hoping that Xbox comes back super bullish this generation, because if you look at it, Xbox dominated the 360 PS3 generation. That inspired PlayStation to really like get off their laurels and do something incredible with the studios and the resources that they had for the PlayStation 4. I think that by having this kind of like back and forth competition, if Xbox sees how much they fell behind this generation, I'm just hoping that it inspired them to really go full force, make a great console, make some great games. Because really, it's better for us as the consumers. And especially with Xbox, I mean, all of their games, their first party games are PC available as well. So if you don't even have an Xbox, but you have a computer, you can still pretty much play the games anyway. So I feel like it's a win-win if Xbox comes back with a big resurgence.
I totally agree. Now, question kind of follow on to that, and not related to PlayStation or Xbox, but has Nintendo ever won a generation, like definitively? Because I agree with your assessment that Xbox 360 definitively won that generation. PlayStation 4 definitively won this generation.
I mean,
next generation we don't know, but
I feel like
Nintendo has
they don't follow generations. They always come out later than whatever the current quote unquote generation is. And I want to say they do dominate though, because the Wii is, I don't remember. I know we fact checked this a few episodes ago, but I think it was one of like the top selling consoles of all time.
Well, they do this thing, and I remember when the Wii first came out, it was super hard to get one. It was just like an Xbox 360. And I don't know if it was ever that way for the Switch, but for the Wii, it was like that. And they have this way of restricting demand in such a way that they never have to have sales. I've been watching for Switch sales for forever. The Switch will never go on sale. It's just not going to happen because they know they don't have to put it on sale. They have potentially smaller but rabid fan base of players that's always going to step up for them. And I think they're kind of happy where they are in the market share. And like you said, they kind of do this delayed release cycle to, I guess, I don't know, make it better for themselves, make it easier on themselves. So in a way, they don't even have a direct competitor.
But I mean, they're arguably dominating right now. If you look at Animal Crossing, well, yeah. I think Animal Crossing broke records for its release. I mean, part of that is probably because people are stuck at home, but also Animal Crossing is just one of the most hyped and eagerly awaited releases that we've seen in a long time. And considering, look at what it is. I mean,
I have no idea why. I was about to say,
it's not a graphically
intensive game. It is the greatest
game
ever.
It's just very calm and relaxing, and people love it.
It's not for me. But, listen, I'm sure there are people listening right now they're probably playing Animal Crossing while listening to this.
Listen, if you played it growing up, it hits you right in the nostalgia, and all you guys know, I am a sucker for nostalgia, and it just hits you home. You got all your boys, Nook, you got the Seagull Sailor guy, and they're just helping you build your house and decorate.
So if you could sum up the game in like a sentence or two, Techtic, how would you describe it to Illeagle?
Baby Sims, no cheat codes. There we go.
So to be clear, what you're describing to me is The Sims, but worse. And
no,
look at how
no.
Yes, absolutely. That's what you just described.
It's so different, and like it's way more chill than The Sims, because like in The Sims you gotta like have a job and all this other stuff. No, in this game you decorate your house, you catch some bugs, you go fishing. It's like Sims summer vacation chill fest.
I will say though, I'm a little irked. This is a little bit of a tangent, but we bought the game and shipping delays happened because of the coronavirus, and it's getting here tomorrow. And as I was reading up on it, because we have one Switch between us, and apparently, like I knew that you had to be on the same island if you used the same console, but apparently the primary player can dictate how far along the second player gets. So like if I was the first player and then I stopped and I never played it again, Techtic would not be able to get any resources past what I had played, which kind of sucks.
It does suck. It doesn't make any sense either. Why would you
need to
make
grind if you're the first player?
We're still hashing out who's going to be the first player.
I mean, I'm sure next week we'll talk about Animal Crossing in more detail and your guys' experience with it, and you can try to explain to me again. You talked about nostalgia, Techtic. I don't have nostalgia. I would never have nostalgia for that game because I would never choose to play it because it looks like watching paint dry. I think even 4 or 5-year-old me would be able to look at that game and discern that there is just nothing for me there. Yeah.
Are you someone that would enjoy Minecraft?
No. And for the same exact.
See, okay, so then that's what the issue is. It's for someone who enjoys world building, basically. And if that's not your thing, if you need a guided story, if you're not a creative person, fine, be that way.
So I have
you really hit me below the belt there at the end with the no creativity. Look, I like The Sims. But again, you hit the nail on the head. The Sims is world building, but you also have like explicit goals. I'm very goal oriented. So give me a job to get, give me a promotion to get, and I'll go do it. So
question then, and we can probably solve who's going to be player one right now. In The Sims.
Okay. I'll decide. Yeah, that's perfect.
My main goal, I play it for about like 3 days. And I go really hard for 3 days. But then once my character has a child, I'm out.
Just like real life.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go with that for now.
What
is this supposed to tell me about whether or not you should be...
Oh, I don't know, but I'm saying like knowing that that's the type of Sims player I am, should I be the first player of Animal Crossing, or will I give it up?
Sounds like no. I mean, it sounds like you're volunteering to not be the first player.
Can you have it? I don't think you can have a kid.
I'm not saying that
in The Sims.
I'm not saying that I have to have a kid in Animal Crossing. I'm saying like I hit a certain goal in The Sims and I'm just done.
Can you woohoo in Animal Crossing?
No, you don't woohoo.
Asking the tough questions. All right, that makes sense.
You guys are blasphemous.
Listen, I'm not sorry. You know, I'm never gonna like games like that. I don't even like Pokemon. Like I never played Pokemon when I was a kid. So
I feel like blasphemy.
Well, but I'm saying I feel like these games are all kind of Pokemon, not as much, but like those games are all kind of in similar veins where people are just absolutely rabid for Minecraft.
Circling
and
back,
Pokemon.
You've you've found who the Nintendo fanboy is, and you've officially offended him.
That's
and
right.
that is why Nintendo doesn't worry about competition, because we're all about that nostalgia. We're all about hitting it home, and we're all about chilling. And so they'll get their sales independent of the competition.
No, sure. And you know, Nintendo has maybe well, not maybe, definitely the most valuable IP of all the three companies. So, you know, they're fine. They're going to be fine. Anyways, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. Hit us up on the social medias, guys, at OWLegal86, at OW Nerdbomber, and at OW Techtic on Twitter. And let us know which one you are angling for, or if you're like me and the answer is neither of them. We want to hear from you, and also try to explain to me what the deal is with Animal Crossing, because clearly I don't understand it. We should move on, because we talked about that for quite a while. Let's talk about, you know, I can't pronounce her name. Ahsoka? Is that right?
I think
Ahsoka
so.
Tano. I'm so sorry to anyone who's listening who I just offended. It won't be the last time. Big news last week came out that Disney had cast Rosario Dawson. That one I did pronounce correctly. Rosario Dawson to play a live-action version of Ahsoka Tano, who was previously a major character in both Star Wars Clone Wars and Rebels, which are both animated series. And she will be guest starring in the upcoming second season of The Mandalorian. Now, there are also rumors, potentially confirmed at this point, I don't know if you guys know or not, that she's getting her own standalone series as well. Here's my thing, okay? I'm just going to lay it all out right away. The Mandalorian, here's what I think The Mandalorian should be, okay? And it for the record, it's already not this, but The Mandalorian should be a show that the Force does not touch. The Mandalorian should be a non-Jedi show. It should be a very Western shootout kind of Star Wars experience. It shouldn't involve Jedi. Now, I'm willing to give Baby Yoda a pass, of course, because he's Baby Yoda. We can't continue getting Jedi involved in this show. It's going to dilute its unique qualities, in my opinion. But I'll turn it over to you guys. I mean, I love the casting, for what it's worth. Love the casting. Think it's great. I think they cast an appropriately aged actress, given her character arc that exists in the extended universe. You know, she's now going to be a lot older than she is in the two series that she's been featured in. But I don't like the decision from a character standpoint. In terms of adding her to the series. So I'll turn it over to you guys for more opinions.
So I have some thoughts. First of all, on the casting, I do think that she is a good person to take on the role. My only misgiving is that Rosario Dawson, in all of her roles habitually, works very well when she plays off of other characters and other quote-unquote like leading actors or actresses. She needs to have someone that she can play off of. And I could be talking out of my butt, but I feel like a lot of the roles where she's played superhero-esque roles, because she was in Daredevil and a bunch of like the DC things on Netflix and whatnot.
Yes.
And I feel like she works really well playing off of somebody. So I feel like if she was to get a standalone TV show, they would need to kind of make it like The Mandalorian, where she has kind of an ensemble, even a rotational cast of people that she can kind of play off of. Because I don't know if she could carry a show by herself. That said, I know she's very passionate about the character, and she's been like pushing to be cast as this character for a very long time. So I trust her kind of doing it justice. Additionally, I think that if they give her like a Cara Dune type role, maybe in The Mandalorian, where she pops into like 3 or 4 episodes.
Help out. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a helper. And kind of like what they did with Cara Dune, how it's kind of spoilery, but like at the end, she's still part of the universe, but kind of is off doing her own thing then. Like, I wonder if that's how they're going to do it, like introduce her in a couple episodes to kind of help out, have some fun banter with the Mandalorian, and then just kind of like peace out at the end and have her own series. I think that could go really well, but I agree that I don't want to see too much Jedi stuff, because then it kind of makes the Mandalorian useless. You know what I mean?
It's not what the show is for. And like I agree with you about the points you made about Cara Dune. I think Cara Dune was very effectively used for what she is in The Mandalorian. I think Ahsoka Tano would be used in a good way that way too. I don't think that's how she'll be used. I think she'll be used coming in maybe initially in that role, and then realizing that Baby Yoda is Baby Yoda and saying, we have to train this kid or whatever. And that's where it then becomes partially a Jedi show, and that's not what it should be.
I mean, I would love to see one episode before Techtic has his opinions. I would love to see one episode of Baby Yoda trying to be trained but he just like completely does not listen and just does what he wants and like levitates random crap and just looks cute but disobeys the entire time, like I would be down for that.
Because he's just like a real baby would do. Yeah, I would be on board with that for sure.
I tend to agree with Nerdbomber here in that they're going to just introduce her for a couple episodes to set herself up for a standalone series. I think she's going to try to say we got to train him, but I have a feeling that she's not going to be part of the A team, so to speak. I think she's going to be more someone that tries to take him away to train to him, as in Baby Yoda, take him away to try to train him, but then the Mandalorian's like, no, he's under my watch, I can't let you have him. And then that's where she goes off and does her own thing.
I mean, interesting. This is an interesting line of thought here, because my counterpoint is, what if their plan is for her to come in, meet Baby Yoda, decide to train Baby Yoda, take Baby Yoda from the Mandalorian to this standalone show? Because that is the best possible way for them to make sure that this new spin-off show is watched. And at that point, the Mandalorian might have enough kind of revved up to keep going without Baby Yoda and return the Mandalorian to kind of like this mercenary figure who just goes around episodically and solves problems. It would be interesting to see Baby Yoda crossover like that. I don't know how possible that is. I'm just spitballing here.
But I have two lines of thought based off that. First of all, I would hate to see the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda split up because I think they're just adorable. And I think the way that Mandalorian can like act off of basically a puppet, and you don't even see his face, but just like how he acts and plays off of Baby Yoda is incredible. And if you take that away from the show, I feel like it becomes a lesser show for it. But also, I can definitely see Baby Yoda being passed from show to show to start new series.
Yeah, as a popularity magnet. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I think in a lot of ways, as much as I just complained about the Jedi aspect of The Mandalorian, the heart of the show is, at this point, the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda's interaction, and the fact that he cares about Baby Yoda enough to do all the things that he does in this show. No spoilers. So to have that taken away would be obviously a setback of sorts for the show. I'm just, again, spitballing that maybe that's what their plan is here. Maybe they're worried that the transition of Ahsoka Tano to live action might not work.
See, I think it's more likely that it's the plot line that I identified, but they can also do something like what they did in the Arrowverse and the Flash, where they'll introduce in one episode, then one will go off to their thing, and then they'll have like a combined series where they're like doing stuff together, and then they'll go off, and it's just like these different seasonal episodic adventures.
Oh God, I actually kind of hate that though. Like
extended crossover events, you mean?
Yeah.
Because then you end up having to watch every single series, and I just don't like that. That is what made me stop watching The Flash and Arrow in the DC Universe shows on CW, because I had to invest in all of the shows, and I just wanted to watch two.
But that's exactly what they want you to do, and that's exactly what they want you to feel like.
And then I just peace out, and I'm not going to watch any.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't just stubbornly peace out. A lot of people just kind of go, I guess I'll watch both now.
Just keep consuming it. And we've talked about all the Marvel shows that are coming out, and that's exactly their goal too, is they're going to have all these interweaving stories, and you're going to have to watch them all if you want to understand it. To an extent, that's even true with the movies. So I don't know what to tell you. Get on board, I guess. I don't know to what extent that's going to happen here, but again, social medias, we want to hear from you about Ahsoka Tano. And if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please, for the love of God, correct me. Hit us up, and we're going to take our break now, but before we do, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer and longtime supporter, Mr. Ben Checkness. We were super thrilled to have Ben on the show a couple weeks ago. It was fairly recent, and we had a nice conversation with him. You can go listen to that, and that can be you guys. If you want to support us, if you like listening to us, if you want to give back, we would super appreciate it. And the way to do that is over on Patreon, where we have 3 tiers of support. Now, the first tier is the night level tier, which is where Ben supports us. And as a result of supporting us at that level, you would get a producer credit on the show, which Ben gets every show. You would get input into our weekly game segment. You would get access to, of course, the monthly secret segment and the monthly vlog. And of course, you would also get the opportunity to occasionally guest spot on the show, as Ben has now done, I think, three times. If you don't want to support us at the night level, we would also love your support at the Squire level, which is the second level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And then there is also the page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, we love doing this. We hope you love listening. And if you were so inclined to show your support, you can head on over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast for more of the details. Thanks again to Ben. And now we're going to swing it over to a couple of our friends, and we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Sedge.
And this is King Kegel, aka Lightsaber Ninja.
And we're two of the three hosts of Gaming Casual, a gaming podcast where three idiots discuss games in the gaming industry casually. Sometimes we get along, sometimes we disagree, and sometimes we go on 45-minute rants about consoles that haven't released yet.
Hey, I'm innocent here.
Bullshit. Check us out on Podbean, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes release every Thursday.
And not for nothing, but every single person that listens to our podcast happens to be a genius. And attractive.
Okay, we are back, and we are back to talk about the Netflix reality phenomena. There's two of them. Love is Blind, which Nerdbomber and I have talked about at length, partially on this show, because I didn't make you watch it, but was I the one who told you to watch it? I think I was.
You were. And then there was a blizzard, and I worked from home, and I had it on in the background. And I mean, I very productively worked from home, but I also incepted it into my brain as I was working, and got addicted.
It's really something. And then there's of The Circle, which I'm told that you guys are watching in the middle of watching now. I have watched all of The Circle season 1. Both of these shows just got renewed for 2 seasons. Now, 2 seasons each, I should say. Neither of these are surprising to me, mostly because of how popular they are, but also because they're probably super easy to produce, right? I mean, all you need for Love is Blind is a warehouse with 10 pods in it, enough wine to, I don't know, drown a small country, and 10 hot people or 20 hot people. My guess is they'll just do different cities for different seasons. Like this season was Atlanta. So maybe next season they'll go to Chicago or something. I don't know.
God, The Circle's even cheaper then.
The Circle is probably even cheaper. The Circle is just get a building with relatively new looking apartments, put a bunch of cameras in them, and then make a budget series/social network thing.
I will say the thing that impressed me with The Circle, though, was that they kind of tailored everyone's apartment to their specific tastes.
Yeah, the apartments are a very interesting aspect of that show, because it was such a mixed bag, and like you said, it's reflective of their personalities. But for me, it was such a mixed bag. I would see a certain apartment and be like, "That's really great," and then I would see another one and be like, "That is the worst thing I've ever seen." I mean, they're cookie cutter, so they're kind of the same, but they're just decorated differently. So for those who haven't watched The Circle, we've talked about what Love is Blind is on the show. We haven't talked about The Circle. The Circle is a social media driven reality competition where there are, I think, 8 people. I don't remember how many people they start with, but these people all sign up for this social network called The Circle, and they never see each other face to face. They only see each other through this social media network, and they only interact with each other through this social media network. And people are eventually quote unquote blocked, which is basically voted off the show. They all rank each other in terms of who they like the most and who they don't like. And the top 2 people get to vote another person off. Kind of like a cross between Survivor and I don't know, I think Big Brother is kind of like that too. It's interesting. And I know you guys are halfway through, so I'm not going to say any.
You forgot the major
spoilers.
plot twist. But some of them can be catfishes. So
the catfishes, yeah.
So even the photos that they're posting on that, they don't know if they're a real person or not. So they have to trust if they're being genuine.
In a sense, similar to Love is Blind, in that there's a lot of people that are interacting with each other, and they don't actually know what the people look like, which is it's psychologically an interesting thing, right? It's supposed to be teaching us how important visual appearance is to us, and blah blah blah, judging a book by its cover. Both shows are ridiculous. I would say Love is Blind more so than The Circle. The Circle is also ridiculous and has a lot of big characters, but it's less soap opera-y and
I feel
more like a reality show.
So The Circle is more of a game show in a way because there's strategy and you're trying to win money at the end. Whereas Love is Blind, they put you through this whirlwind romance, and at the end of like a month, they expect people to get married, which
it's just nonsense.
I feel like, so I obviously got addicted to Love is Blind. We talked about this before, but I feel like I would have liked the show so much better if they didn't have the marriage stipulation at the end of the month. Or like, let me follow them. The whole show is. Like, do it at the end of 6 months. Because that's just such a big commitment to ask of people in their real life. Like, you are legitimately committing yourself to a legally binding marriage.
You just met and now you have to have a baby.
For a reality TV show. It's crazy.
But listen, that's why, like, I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty sure that's why I started watching it, is I was like, okay, 28 days they get married. This is ridiculous. I got to see what this is all about. You know, it was like that and all the stuff I've been hearing from other people. But, like, I think if you turn it from 1 month into 6 months, yeah, I get what you're saying about, like, marriage is an institution, blah, blah, blah. But, like, people want to show up to see sloppy stuff. And the guarantee of sloppy stuff when it's a month instead of 6 months is just extremely higher to me. People can't take their time to get to know each other. They have to expose flaws very quickly, and they have to do it in explosive ways and do just absolutely nonsensical things.
The one thing, so knowing that now there's going to be 2 additional seasons of each of these shows, it's now the contestants moving forward are going to know the tactics and the strategies and how they should behave and act. Like, you can't tell me, even if you get another Jessica on season 2 of Love is Blind, she's not going to act like a Jessica. She's going to tamp that down until she makes it to the aisle. Let's be real.
Listen, I do not know if that's true at all. I think a person like Jessica, and we shouldn't get too into the weeds, but like, I think a person like Jessica is going to be the way that she is, agnostic of any outside influences. like, I mean, I think there were plenty of outside influences that were being imposed upon her during the show that she just ignored and was like, I'm going to be the person that I am, which, like, yeah, you should be who you are, but like, it was a mess.
So can I ask a question?
Please.
So marriage is a sacred vow, and we're at a point in human history where reality shows are now just marrying people up. You have this, you have 90 Day Fiance, you've got
I was going to say, this is not a new thing.
So
90 Day Fiance, also super addicting because those people are freaking crazy.
Train wreck.
And isn't there one called Married at First Sight? There's another one too.
I think
there's a bunch of these.
So if we, for a moment, just say nothing is sacred anymore, I have a reality show for you.
Okay, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so you got 5 surrogates. They're all into the idea.
Netflix copyright. We just make sure they don't steal this.
They're all into the idea of having a baby. Fine. Mm-hmm. They have to meet people, and then within 10 days, they have to decide if they want to be the father or not. Can you imagine, first off, the drama? Second off, that kid is now going to say, oh yeah, how did my parents meet? A reality show. Wait a minute, you were on this show? Yeah.
Are you talking? Wait, do I not know what a surrogate is? I thought the surrogate was the mom who carried the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it's already someone who's into the idea of carrying the baby and getting pregnant. So those would be the ideal candidates for the show.
Okay. See, I think there should be another one where it's sperm donors. It's the other way. Where like there's these guys who are like, I want to be a father I want to like give my sperm to someone and become a dad, and they like do some kind of competition.
Oh my god, yeah, it could be like
to plant my seed.
It could be a combination of Love is Blind and The Bachelor, where you have like one woman trying to have a baby has to pick between all of these fathers that she can only date through the wall.
Right, and it would be like, well, it wouldn't have to be the wall thing necessarily. It'd be
remove
like
the wall. I'm getting gross.
Wait,
it would be like,
I'm not talking about that kind of wall.
No,
oh my God.
That's not what I meant either. God, no, I'm saying what it should be is it should be like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette rather, where she gets to like meet all these guys and she's like, well, Craig is like really muscly and like has beautiful eyes, but he also like rides a bicycle a lot, so I don't know what his sperm count is like. And that would be an episode. You know what I mean? Like that would be good television. But to circle back to Love is Blind and The Circle, they're getting 2 new seasons each. I know you guys are only halfway through The Circle, and Techtic, I know you also didn't watch Love is Blind. So I guess I'll ask Nerdbomber, which one do you like more so far?
Love is Blind. Hundo P.
Yes, same here. I mean, The Circle is good. The Circle does some weird stuff. Now, how far are you in The Circle?
Like I said, about halfway through. I don't want to identify who just left or joined the show.
No, sure. But you've seen new people come in. I don't get that. I don't understand that aspect of it at all.
That's the part to me that I don't necessarily like about the show. Because first of all, I feel like you get 2 episodes with these characters and then they are already writing one off. And then you're introduced to a new one. And I don't understand how this new one, that's not even fair because they don't really get that same level of interaction with everybody else. So I think it would have been better
if get to the end.
Exactly.
If
they just had the same group of people and there was none of this voting out stuff, I think it would have been a lot better. I don't know how they would have executed it, but I think it would have been better.
It's competitively flawed in a couple ways, I think, that being one of them. It's super interesting, though. I think that one is probably the more interesting one to watch of the two. And Love is Blind is just ridiculous, and it's just, you watch it and you're like, oh my God, what is happening? The Circle, there were a couple of legitimate moments where I was imagining myself in this situation and what would I do? And it is kind of a more interesting study on how people use social media and how it affects relationships and everything. And there's of course the whole catfish element, which you already mentioned.
It's
so we'll have to talk about it more.
It was before its time, though, because I know we've been trying to kind of skirt around it because we dedicated a whole episode to it, but we're basically living in the circle right now.
Oh yeah, well, but I mean, listen, I know I've seen you guys in person before. I know you have catfish.
But for the most part, we're all interacting via social media, texting, all that kind of stuff.
SNL actually, when John Mulaney hosted an episode, I think it was last month sometime, they actually did a sketch that was people on Love is Blind who had coronavirus. Not the greatest, didn't age well, I'll say that much. To me, Love is Blind is my favorite as well. You can really just check your brain at the door when you turn that television show on.
They will replace Nick Lachey and his wife. What's her name? Vanessa?
I'm back and forth on that because I think that they were just terrible. I think they were the worst part of the show. They were in the show so little. Their involvement was so small, but they still managed to just be so intrusive and so obtrusive when they were there.
My vote
I don't know who would do better.
I know in my heart that
Steve Harvey.
No. If they took one of the
Jesus.
One, if there were any, I guess, to avoid spoilers, couples who succeeded and came back in the reunion, I think they would be great hosts because they lived through it.
That would be pretty good, but I'm thinking of the people that made it through, and I don't know if there are any good candidates there. But I like the idea. I like the idea of people coming back, if only so you can see if they're still together, right?
I mean, you watched the reunion, right?
Oh yeah, I watched the reunion. Yeah, I mean,
I think there's at least one solid choice in my head, but I don't want to spoil the show for people who haven't watched, so we'll talk about that offline.
Right. In any case, we just wanted to mention that these shows are coming back. I think it's great. I love reality television. I'm not sorry for it. So be on the lookout for those. I don't know if we know when they're going to be out. I would guess next year sometime. So, I guess be on the lookout for that. So now we're going to move on to What Are You Up To Wednesday, which is really the second major portion of the show. I think we all have some pretty sizable updates, so let's just dive right into it. I'm going to go first this time because I'm very excited about mine. Of course, it's already been mentioned a couple times now that we're living in the time of coronavirus. And one thing that I tend to do with some close friends, especially in my hometown, which I'm away from home right now, I'm going to school, is play board games. And obviously we're not near each other and we also can't leave our houses. So we found a new way to do that through the website tabletopia.com, which is not a sponsor. Basically, you can play board games online. There's not a whole lot else to describe other than that. But I've played Wingspan so far. I've played Space Explorers so far, which incidentally, you guys got me that game and it's very good. Both of them available on Tabletopia along with 800 plus other games.
Is it free?
You can play. It is free for so there's tiers of membership. There's a tier that's free, but I think it limits the number of games you can play. There is the first quote unquote premium tier is $6 a month, but it's free for the first month, and that's the one that I did. I mean, even after the free month, it's $6 a month, and like considering how long this could go on for, I feel like it's worth the investment. I strongly encourage everyone to check it out. Other than that, Hayes and I have been doing some couch co-op with Little Big Planet 3, which has been a fun little side-scrolling platformer kind of deal. We're enjoying that. But yeah, other than that, just kind of hanging out at home. You know, what else can you do at this point? Techtic, my friend. What do you have?
So going into, again, the quarantine experience. So the first thing that I want to mention is I actually pulled a butt muscle from how much sitting I had been doing. I didn't know it was possible, but yowza.
You said sitting, right?
Yes, from sitting. It's
okay,
just
I thought you said something
somehow
else.
I moved weird and I pulled a muscle in my butt cheek. Don't know how, but this has been fun.
And are you on the mend? Are you doing better, or does it still hurt?
Yeah, it's coming around. And then the second thing is as I said, I have started The Last of Us, and I don't really recommend playing it in this time because
it's pretty intense.
The level of anxiety I'm getting. So the first scene of the game alone, like before the title comes in, after you do like your intro kind of story, they're playing the news, and they're going through. Residents are recommended to stay in quarantine. The government has issued a state of emergency after 200 deaths. That's literally exactly what's going on right now. And I'm like hyperventilating listening to this, like, this is a bad choice. This is a bad choice. And so, yeah, this has been interesting and fun. And I will let you guys know when I go full panic attack.
So in spite of that anxiety-induced update, I'm really happy for you because it's one of my favorite games ever. You've drawn some parallels between that and the coronavirus outbreak, and I think the obvious way to break those parallels is The Last of Us it's zombies, man. These aren't zombies. We're not in zombie time here. So you can sleep at night. I think you'll be okay.
Oh, no, it's not going to be the coronavirus that makes zombies. It's going to be the rushed to market cure.
Like in I Am Legend.
Yes.
It made a cure for cancer. Yeah. And anyways, I'll be checking in periodically for updates on how the game is going for you, because it's a game that's very near and dear to my heart. So happy gaming. Nerdbomber.
Okay, so two things that I want to touch on. First of all, we have also played a board game lately. We actually have a stack of games that we haven't visited in a long time, and we kind of have to relearn / maybe play for the first time. And Hardback is one of those games that I bought probably like 2 years ago, because I think it came out in 2018, and I bought it right when it came out, and then we just never played it. And I was inspired to buy it after we played Paperback with you, which is a deck building type card game, kind of like a fusion between a deck building game and Scrabble. And so I bought Hardback, and we actually just played that. It's more or less the same as Paperback. They just added a few additional elements to the game. For example, I want to say in Paperback, like, you just had the value of your cards at the end, correct?
I think so. I haven't played it in a while.
Whereas,
yeah, it sounds right.
Now with Hardback, you actually have to get like aspiration points or stars, and then whoever hits 60 stars first wins. So it kind of puts a pace to the game too. There's a lot more cards that come with the game, and there's like little tokens, and you can buy ink, and it's really fun. I mean, if you liked Paperback, 10 out of 10 recommend Hardback. It's fun, adds some elements, and I think there's cooperative ways to play the game as well.
I love co-op. I love co-op games so much. Yeah, I own Paperback. I played it many times. I've actually never played Hardback. My brother owns it, but based on the way Hardback sounds and based on my experience with Paperback, I'd recommend both of them. They're really good games.
And then the other thing that we have been doing is that, knowing that this was in our future, staying home a lot, I had purchased on Mario Day Yoshi's Crafted World because it was only $39.99, and I knew it was a co-op game that Techtic and I could play together while we waited for Animal Crossing to come in. And I have mixed feelings. Like, it's a super cute game, but it just doesn't draw either of us in like I thought it would. Like, it's fun, but I'm not raring to go. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, let's play Yoshi's Crafted World. But I mean, it's a fun platformer. It's a fun platformer. That's all I got. Like it's a cute game, but it's nothing.
Rave review.
It's not like Luigi's Mansion 3, which is kind of more what I thought it would be.
The story just doesn't draw you in.
Yeah, and that's for me. That's like the most important thing. Well, good to know. Yeah, I mean, I think to go back to your point about hardback, I think in general, like one of the, and I mentioned doing the jigsaw puzzle last week when we were talking about quarantine activities. I want to like replace it with, I think playing board games in any way that you can. Board games are just one of the best ways to get away from a screen, because obviously we're logging so much more screen time than we usually do now. Get away from a screen and you occupy your mind with something, because that's another thing that's really important to do during the quarantine, is keep your mind occupied. And it's a great way to do that, and also interact with people, and it's a social experience. So yeah, definitely would recommend that. Now, another thing you could do during the quarantine, and really anytime, is drink coffee. And the topic of our quiz this week is, of course, that delicious hot beverage that we all know and love. So I am hosting this week, and I have 10 coffee-related questions for you. They are pretty much all of them Price is Right style questions, so we can just dive right in. May the best player win. First things first, how many U.S. states produce coffee? And we'll start with Nerdbomber, because she is, as we know, a lady.
I'm going to say 5. I feel like not that many states produce coffee. Like, are we talking like growing beans? Because don't you need to have a specific climate for that?
Listen, yeah, we're talking like the beans, yeah. Harvesting beans.
Then I want to say 5, ? I'm probably underselling it a lot.
So I'm going to go ahead and double that and say 10.
All right, so yeah, this was kind of a trick. You guys both busted. It's 2. So Nerdbomber, you are on the right track, totally. It's only Hawaii and California. There are no other states that do it. Because, like, as you've said very astutely, the climate conditions have to be very specifically a certain way.
I guess I just assumed like Florida would be in on it because they do the whole orange thing. So I was like, oh, maybe they do coffee. I don't know.
It's too muggy there. And I don't know. I don't know what climate conditions are needed exactly. I just have a little thing here in front of me. Okay, so in the same vein, this is the only one that is not a Price is Right style question. So we're just going to guess back and forth until one of you gets it. Which country is the leading coffee producer in the world? And Techtic, you are first.
Brazil.
Colombia.
I wasn't expecting you to get it right away. It's Brazil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought you would have guessed Colombia first too. Colombia would have been my first guess. No, it's Brazil. So Techtic, you are on the board. Congrats. It is now 1-0. The follow-up question to that question, which is kind of a two-parter. What percentage of the world's supply of coffee does Brazil produce? Back to you, Nerdbomber.
I'm going to say 50%. Give it a nice even number.
I'm going to say 63%.
Okay, so you guys both busted. It's 33%, so 1/3. You're on the right track with a nice even number. Just went a little high. So Techtic's still on top with 1 point. So far, a lot of busting has happened. Hopefully that will stop. Okay. Finland is the highest coffee-consuming country in the world. Yeah, apparently, according to this webpage. How many pounds of coffee does the average Finn go through per year? And Techtic, you are now first.
I have a very
4
important...
pounds.
Wow. I was going to say, are we talking about like liquid or the beans?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think it specifies. But let me double check. Does not specify. I would guess the pound, the beans.
It would have to be the beans, or else they would use milliliters or something like that.
You could talk about like ounces.
No.
Let's just assume the beans. So, Techtic, you guessed how many? 4 pounds?
4 pounds.
I'm going to go a bit higher and say 20.
Okay, Nerdbomber is on the board. She ties it up. It is 27.5 pounds of coffee each year. They drink a lot of coffee, guys. Although I will say the average American drinks 11 pounds a year. So 4 pounds is in general pretty low. Okay, so it's now 1-1. Another classic question as far as these quizzes usually go. What is the world's largest cup of coffee ever poured, according to the Guinness World Book of Records? If it helps, this was done in... Let me check the year. This was done... Oh gosh, I know it's in here somewhere. Sorry, I'm scrolling. 2012 is when this happened. And I'm
What's the units?
In gallons. Gallons is the answer. So I should tell you how big a cup it is.
I'm going to say 20,000 gallons, the size of a swimming pool. An above ground circular one that kind of looks like a coffee mug.
That feels like a bust. So I'm going to go 100 gallons.
Okay, Techtic, you cagey boy. 3,487 gallons. So I have to give it to Techtic there.
How big is our pool?
18,000.
Okay, so someone needs to go fill their pool with coffee and break the Guinness World Record because that
It's not. You can't be. It has to be hot.
I can tell you that
hot
the
tub.
cup was 9 feet tall. That's what I can tell you. Other than that, Techtic pulls ahead again, so it's now 2-1. Here's an interesting one. According to Dunkin' Donuts, how many different ways can you order a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts?
I'm gonna go with 12. 12 different ways.
I'm going to say 13.
Okay. Nerdbomber gets it. 25,000 different ways.
No way.
That's what it's.
What even ways? Like what?
Oh, I know. I'm gonna list them out. Black with 1 cream. Black with 2 creams.
I mean,
Black with
they have-
25,000 creams.
They have like flavor shots. You can order it iced. You can order different size. There's permutations of all these different combinations. So I can imagine it getting. I mean, 25,000 is a lot, but I can imagine it at least getting into the hundreds.
I guess I
12
was
is
just
low.
thinking like different flavor shots.
Well, but again, you can
Yeah.
mix flavor shots, and you can. And let's say there's like 6 flavor shots. Then there's like, I don't know, 6 factorial combinations right there, and that's not even
fair.
considering anything else. So in any case, that's go to Dunkin' Donuts, I guess. Actually, don't go there. I do not like Dunkin' Donuts. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, so Nerdbomber ties it up again. It's 2-2. We have 4 questions to go, so it's a dead heat. How much does the world's most expensive coffee cost per pound? And I'll give you a little bit of information about this coffee once I can scroll up to it. Okay, one of the most coveted varieties comes from the feces of an Asian palm civet, or civet. I don't know how it's pronounced.
I've actually heard of this before.
It's a cat-like creature that eats fruit, including coffee cherries, but is unable to digest the beans. The excreted seeds produce a smooth, less acidic brew called Kopi Luwak.
Okay, this is how we get diseases. Don't drink that.
Listen, people aren't just drinking it. They're spending a lot of money on it. So, okay, I'm looking for dollars per pound on this one, and I believe...
It's me.
No, I think it's Techtic goes first.
No,
you're right.
No, it's
You're
not,
right.
'cause she, like,
it's Nerdbomber.
one-
Yeah,
I tried
one
to scoop
above.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's $98 per pound.
Techtic.
I'm gonna go $2,000 per pound.
Ooh, you busted. $600 per pound. So that point goes to the Nerdbomber. I believe it's like $98 a cup or something, and that works out to $600 a pound. So Nerdbomber pulls ahead again. It's 2-3 now. How many Starbucks locations are there on Earth? Now, when you Google this, it gives you an answer that's more than X. I'm just looking for the X. So it's probably like
Hang on,
very
can you
close to that
imagine
number.
being that cat? Like some weirdo is just following you around, waiting for you to poop.
I mean, think about our
That'd be great.
dogs. Some
Yeah, same
weirdo
thing.
takes them out and just waits for them to poop and then collects it.
Yeah. He's trying making coffee out of it. So, okay, how many Starbucks locations are there on Earth, roughly speaking?
I'm gonna go with 20,000 locations.
Okay, Nerdbomber.
I want to say it's more than that. I'm going to say 50,000.
It is more, but you busted. It's 30,000. So it's
Darn it.
tied up again. Boy, you guys are going back and forth here. We're going to stay on the Starbucks train. A venti Java chip Frappuccino from Starbucks contains how many calories?
Oh, I knew this once because this is what I order.
This is what you order?
I want to say it's like something absurd. It's like 850 calories.
Okay, so you're going with 850 Techtic?
851 calories.
Rude.
All right, well, didn't work. You both busted. It's 600, which for a point of
Really?
reference is it's more than a Big Mac. 600.
Are you sure that's not a grande? That sounds like a grande.
Listen, venti Java chip Frappuccino. It's
Maybe
what the
it's not
webpage
counting
says.
for the whipped cream. I think the whipped cream adds extra.
No idea. Do you think the whipped cream adds 250 calories?
I have no idea. Their
like
whipped
that's
cream
not
is
likely.
pretty like thick with 2 C's.
Okay, so where it stands now is Nerdbomber is ahead by 1 going into the last question. So Techtic, you got to go for the tie here, and then we'll do a tiebreaker. An 8-ounce brewed cup of decaf contains how much caffeine in milligrams? Now, they give a range. I'm looking for the upper limit of that range. How many milligrams of caffeine does a 8-ounce brewed cup of decaf contain? Do you want a reference point? I can tell you how many.
No.
Okay.
And don't you dare give it to Nerdbomber. I'm going to say 250 milligrams.
Okay.
I'm going to say 5 milligrams.
Yeah. Techtic, what were you thinking? It's 12 milligrams. For reference, and this is the reference point I was going to give you, a regular cup of an 8-ounce brewed cup of regular coffee has 95 to 200. So if you gave someone a 250 milligram cup of coffee,
That's like
they'd
anti-decaf.
probably have a heart attack.
Oh, you said coffee? I thought you said speed. Okay.
Right. Okay, so Nerdbomber takes home the win. She does a victory lap on that last question and wins it 4-2. So congratulations to her. She will be hosting next week's quiz. And she will also be hosting the secret segment. And if you want to know what she's doing in the secret segment, you're going to have to just support us to find out.
Yeah, pony up $1 and you will be able to listen to our wonderful secret segment.
Which should be dropping soon. In the meantime, we want to thank you all for listening, as I think a lot of you do quite often. And we want to encourage you to come back next week and also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and let us know how we're doing. And also stay safe. We'll probably be saying that a lot over the next few weeks, so get used to that. In any case, we'll talk at you all next week and go out there and enjoy yourselves. But stay indoors. Yeah, stay indoors. Have a good week, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.